Hey everyone, welcome to another G News update on Friday, the 28th of November. Well, what has been happening this morning? The news came out basically that Simon Dello was having his last day at Television New Zealand reading the news out after a bit more than 20 years in the job. And one of the things that was covered in the kind of tribute, I suppose, to all that time that Simon's been reading the news here in New Zealand was the fact that on some level he was a bit introspective and suffered a little bit from the old imposter syndrome, especially in the early days, you know, when he was kind of coming to grips with the idea that he's got this public side and he's got another side, and whether he would bring enough authority or those kind of things to the news. So that whole thing of, you know, the person and the public persona, that plays on a lot of people, and we've heard that whole term used by Dame Jacinda Ardern as well. So, you know, you become a public person, but you're privately somebody else, to yourself anyway. So this particular point was rather interesting because one of the follow-on points there was how, when it came to reading the news, Simon Dello tried to bring to the job a kind of a dispassionate source of information, so that no matter who was reading the news, they weren't interfering with the information, and they were kind of allowing an audience to make up their own minds based on here's the information. So that was the primary role of reading out the news, I believe, and now he's going, and I think it contrasts a lot with what we saw this morning on the Herald Now. Now, as you know, the Herald Now was basically the brainchild of Julie Christie, according to Bernard Hickey. He basically said, look, they looked at the numbers when it came to making money, because this was the main thing for a commercial media organisation, was revenue and the bottom lines, and they realised that the kind of the video medium was probably the way to go in terms of getting the most clicks and attention. So who could they put in front of the camera? Well, they went and got this guy, you know, who had a definite bias to the right, who had worked at Newshub, doing things like asking Dame Jacinda if she'd coloured her hair and, you know, why she'd done that, back-talking people after they had finished talking on an interview, taking a real kind of right-wing point of view, trying to change the government. So that kind of person was put forward, and we ended up with Ryan Bridge, who's doing all these interviews now and kind of shaping things, trying to influence opinion, bringing his own opinion into things. Now, this morning we saw Erica Stanford and Willow Jean Prime front up on the Herald Now with Lion Ryan, and Lion Ryan was pretty quick to say, look, I 100% agree with the ministry. Everything the ministry said is fully correct, and I'm outraged that there are any questions at all about what the ministry is trying to tell us all. But just hold on a second. What was Erica Stanford and the ministry trying to tell us all? Well, before he even got to that, he asked Willow Jean Prime for her point of view on the controversy, I suppose, we're seeing around whether or not these little bits and pieces of maths results that are being promoted in the news as big headlines were some sort of great success, or really just a kind of a rigged system. So here's a little bit of a clip about how this was introduced.
Now, we've got some numbers on education this week which are proving quite a little bit controversial, because are they groundbreaking, as the government claims, or are they kind of rigged, as some unions are claiming? Well, Eugene, I want to know from you first what your take is on this, because on the face of it, they look incredibly promising, these numbers.
So I first want to acknowledge that any improvement in our results is a good thing, and that should be celebrated and welcomed. But I have seen criticism and concern and questions actually about the information that has been presented. What I've seen maths experts, I have also seen the New Zealand Principals Federation asking for a please explain, and I think it's really important that parents have the correct information about exactly what has happened here and what those results are, and I think that the Minister should respond to that.
All right, well, let's tell people what the results are first, because I haven't done that yet. So let's take a look. This is the Maths Acceleration Trial for Years 7 and 8 students. They managed to leap, in terms of progress, 1 to 2 years ahead of where they were after 12 weeks of the acceleration trial. There was also another group of students, not in the acceleration trial, who leapt a year ahead in 12 weeks by focusing on an hour of maths a day and by using new materials and instruction. Minister, is this groundbreaking or is this rigged?
Well, if it was rigged, I'm an extraordinarily good politician, my friend.
So there you can see basically the setup and the framing of this debate, and it's either this or it's that. And Willie-Jean just commences to say, look, any kind of improvement that we might see actually is a good thing, but what we're seeing here isn't necessarily what's being claimed. So what's being claimed here is that basically there's this 1 to 2 year improvement for a group of 7 to 8 year students who sat a test that was plucked out of an old test for the old curriculum that Erica Stanford thought was aligned with the new curriculum. And then 12 weeks later, they showed an improvement. And then 12 weeks later again, they showed more improvement. And the claim was that these students were leapfrogging ahead at some sort of accelerated maths learning pace. But the criticism was that, in actual fact, what we're seeing here is teaching for the test. So that's kind of like a false result or not a very valid way of going about assessing success. And the second thing was, well, there's 6 different key areas to mathematics, and here's just one. And then there's a debate over what was actually being claimed. Had you claimed success in all those areas? Had you claimed a sort of broad success? And Erica Stanford was backpedaling pretty fast, saying we haven't claimed this, and everybody else hasn't listened to the ministry when we aligned this part of this old test. And she had no real answer to the teaching for the test argument, though, did she? In fact, what she was doing was coming up with some new crazy marketing buzzwords and slogans for us all. So today's crazy terms that Erica liked to use were psychomathematics or psychometricians and experts.
We had independent psychometricians and experts design this trial weeks ago.
I don't. I believe you. I believe what the ministry has said because, as you say, then 12 weeks later after that, they asked them again.
That's why psychometricians designed this to be exactly right in terms of what we do.
Psychometricians and experts. If you're not a psychometrician, then what would you know?
Expert psychometricians. I didn't design it, the ministry didn't design it, expert psychometricians. Leanne Ottany from the New Zealand Principals Federation is not a psychometrician.
Willie-Jean Prime was saying, well, actually, I'm kind of with the maths professors, you know, the people that are actually real experts and who study this stuff and teach this stuff for years and years and years. And I'm also with the New Zealand Principals Federation, and what they're actually saying and their questions and their criticisms, I think, of the claims that there's some great success here. So anyway, here's a bit of a clip again from this footage just to sort of show what I've just been mentioning.
Do you accept that? Do you think that what the minister is saying is legitimate, that these are valid results now?
No, I think I still share the concerns that I have seen from maths professors, also from the New Zealand Principals Federation. What they have pointed out is that what we have here is potentially a case of teaching to the test, and so therefore, of course, you are going to get better results from that. What's important to also highlight, as the Minister has kind of vaguely explained here and maybe left out, is that this is one of 6 areas of maths that is taught in the curriculum that has been focused on and tested. So to claim 1 to 2 years for students for maths is, I think, a bit misleading because it's for one area.
Are you claiming that?
We said very clearly in all of our communications that these were the areas that we assessed.
Well, I think parents need to understand that.
Yeah,
no,
to be fair, they did say that. But,
we did
but
say
to
that.
your point, Willie-Jean, do you think that that a kid who learned something 12 weeks ago will then remember the answer 12 weeks later?
Well, this is the concerns that we're hearing from the sector.
But what do you think?
This is the sector are the experts, the teachers are the experts, and the concerns that the teachers have is that we end up in a situation where we are teaching to the test to produce results to show something.
So yeah, Lion Bridge was fully behind Erica here. He was definitely on a side. He wasn't kind of just letting the information flow or people make up their mind like Simon Dello. He was saying, well, you know, I'm with a side.
Don't. I believe you. I believe what the ministry has said because, as you say, then 12 weeks later after that, they asked them again,
That's why
budget. To me, that's outrageous, because what else should we be using an education budget for?
We're basically having this kind of like political debate now about what the hell is Erica doing, with this kind of psychometrician experts, the think tank people. It sort of all feels like sort of fizzy pop, doesn't it? Kind of like some new slogans, some new buzzy terms, and a whole lot of spin. Over on I Am Brie Elliott, there's a little bit of a debate going on this morning around the kind of spin that Erica's been using. There's this National Party piece of sloganeering and spin that tries to compare apples and oranges, and it's basically saying, look, National teach times table, but Labor teach communications, literacy and maths, and here's some quote from the communications and literacy side, so therefore we must be better than them. Back National, because we teach times tables. So you can sort of see the deception and the misleadingness of Erica Stanford. And she started using terms like my friend. Here she is using my friend.
Politician, my friend. I want to be Education Minister for the next 10 years. I keep telling you that, my friend. I got a lot more.
I mean, it's no surprise, is it, that the Herald now is right-wing and that it's kind of owned by the people that were running the Centrist, which is a real white-wing sort of conspiratorial rag, pretending to be middle of the road and accurate. And you've also got Stephen Joyce in there, clipping the ticket, as the chair. So what did we all expect from this crowd? So the influence there must be looked at with a very sceptical eye, and you must realise that it's always 2 against 1 when Ryan Bridge is actually part of the interview team. And we've seen that with Chloe Swarbrick and David Seymour, 2 against 1. So if we want more of that, we just keep on clicking into that kind of biased news service. There was also an interview this morning that featured Chris Hipkins talking to Thomas Coughlan, and Thomas Coughlan basically was saying, oh, you must be feeling pretty good right now, Chris Hipkins, because 2 years in, look at where you're sitting, you're high in the polls, you're very popular, things are going well, you're on the other side of the CGT, that hasn't been a disaster, things are going pretty good compared to how they were, maybe 2 years ago. And Chris Hipkins was like, yeah, I think if I look back, and thought if I could be here 2 years into the first term, I'd be feeling pretty good. And Chris Hipkins went on to say, well, look, basically, Labor's actually already introduced 3 big policies this year. And so with the Labor conference this weekend, you'll see a couple of follow-up policies. But basically, we've seen the big stuff. So what follows next week will be smaller follow-on policies that relate to the ones we've already seen from Labor. At this point, roughly, we also heard Chris Hipkins talk about how good his team was, how very, very energised everyone in the Labor team is at the moment. All the MPs are very, very focused. And he just wanted, his message to them is to stay focused and, keep doing the kind of things we're doing. He mentioned how there'd been a lot of room internally in the Labor Party for open debate and discussion about different issues. So because of this, there wasn't really any kind of pressure for anyone to go outside and cause trouble and rock the boat or give any kind of instability or team issues. The kind of thing we saw for years and years. I think, what did we see? 5 different leaders in the National Party. During that period of time after John Key and during the last 6 years when Jacinda was at the helm. National just couldn't get it together. They were totally unstable. They were leaking on each other. They were all over the place. So that's not the case with Labor. They're a very focused, well-oiled machine who just kind of know, and they have this kind of confidence, and they're very focused on the areas, and they certainly have the experience in the front bench, and they've got huge amounts of talent coming through. So basically, good old Thomas Coughlan was trying to find some kind of angle or wedge, because he does work for the Stephen Joyce operation, so he's trying to find some sort of national party point of view here. And what was he going after? Well, he was going after the idea that Craig Rennie might be just so qualified and so good at what he does that, maybe he could rock the boat there with Barbara. But once again, Chris was like, Barbara will be the next Minister of Finance. There is nobody more qualified and ready to be the Minister of Finance than Barbara Edmonds in this country or in the history of other elections coming in to be Finance Minister. So certainly way more qualified than Nicola Willis, the fairy godmother. Ferry. Yeah, so he put that attempt to drive some kind of wedge in there by Thomas to bed, and then Thomas kind of got hooked up on $12.8 billion in stolen pay equity. What will Labor do? Now, this is in the territory of when the media doesn't have a story, doesn't have an angle, is fishing around for something, and basically it's been told hundreds of times that those policies about pay equity will come next year, but despite the fact that they've been told, they try again to try and make a politician announce their policy today, and then they've got the scoop and the headline and their hero. But of course, 99.99% of the time, this just leads to a waste of time, bad, experiences for the customer who's watching this ongoing cycle of the politician saying, well, I'm not going to announce that information today. But one of the things I noticed was Thomas didn't seem to be able to get past the idea that Chris Hipkins had already said, what happens with Labor policy, its policy on getting back to real pay equity for women, may not be precisely what it was at the time that the National Party ambushed women, 180,000 women, just before the May 2025 budget. In order to make their books balance, they stole $12.8 billion in pay equity from low-paid women around New Zealand and thought they could get away with it and that everyone would just forget about it. But here we are talking about it still, and there's going to be a big election issue that they've done this to our people, and it's just another one of these kind of things where they came in with so arrogant sort of destructive policies that just punch down and hurt people in a cost of living crisis. So that interview ended up kind of petering out, but Thomas Coughlan still made a headline out of how Labor wouldn't say, whether it would actually, how it would find this $12.8 billion. But we all know that there's going to be a fiscal plan laid out by Labor closer to the election when the books are opened. Now, speaking of the books being opened, just before Christmas and the week before Christmas, Nicola Willis is going to have to open up the state of the books. At the moment, like they were last year and all the time that they've been in power, they're talking it up like things are going to come right, just hold on in there. We see green shoots. Things have really turned a corner. They turned a corner ages ago, and here we are still today. But, what I'm bringing this up for is there will be, just before Christmas, another one of these cases where Nicola Willis faces the accountability for the actual results. And we're talking about what has happened in the economy during the last 2 years. Where are we up to now? Where's the account deficits? Where are we heading with surplus? All those kind of things. So that's going to come up before Christmas, so we'll be across that. Yesterday was quite interesting for me personally. I had a bit of a chat to a couple of MPs. We're going to have some interviews here on G News, very interesting ones about education, probably to do with health as well, coming up. So hold on for that. I'm looking forward to those. Here we are this morning. I'm sitting just down at the playground in the middle of Palm Beach. That's Nani Island out there. This is Palm Beach. And it's a Friday morning, as you know. So it's a beautiful day here at Waiheke Island and everything's good. It's looking like we're going red in New Zealand. The mood has changed and the tide has turned. So no more of this neoliberal rubbish, no more of the Erica Stanford destroying our education, trying to spin us, apples versus orange arguments, my friend in the media, and all the kind of rubbish that we kind of hear as they try and trap and hold Labor to much higher levels of scrutiny than National ever get held to. But what a shocker it's been from National, flip-flopping on the regulatory standards bill. What a waste of money. You just can't trust anything they say. Ripping up the local government, local voice, when Christopher Luxon campaigned on localism. I believe in localism and I believe in devolution, but here they are, without a mandate, just ripping apart local government. And so, you want your community voice back. You want to be together. You want to be aligned. You want to kind of honour Te Treaty. You want to do well in business. You want to do well in education. Well, I think we really need to stop the think tank stuff and the foreign buyer stuff and, selling off all the assets and cuts more and more cuts. That's just not working for New Zealand. Neoliberalism has never worked, and all the time that it's been around, for anybody who was close to the edge or struggling, it's just going to cut, it's going to punch down on you. So stop voting for it. All right, that's enough from me this morning. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you all again soon.
Welcome to G News, the good news.